Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel, and today in this video we'll be covering another training game I played online on chess.com. This game I actually played yesterday. So I was playing the black pieces, and let's take a look at what happened. So my opponent plays e4, I go with my Sicilian, e4 c5, this is the closed Sicilian with knight to c3. Here g3, here we see this variation with f4 soon, f4 here. And here basically white tries to create some type of kingside initiative with like h3, g4, and f5. Sorry, not e5, f5. So here I put my knight into d4. It is a bit of an inaccuracy because it's a little bit rushed here, but this is something thematic in the closed Sicilian. You can get away with the double pawns here because basically white has to go really passive. If you play something like knight to b5, for example, here I have a move like a6. Here, if you take this pawn, then here I can play something like queen to b6. You play bishop to e3. Then here I simply have a move like bishop to g4, attacking the queen. After queen to d2, I can capture this pawn on b2 at some point. And this should be playable for black. Going back here, so here my opponent plays knight e2. I play queen b6, defending the knight again. Here c3. I put my knight on b4. Better probably would have been knight c6, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. Here a4 was played. I play knight c7. And here my opponent plays c4, which is actually, in my opinion, a little bit of a mistake because here this allows me to gain full control of this b4 square. So immediately I play knight a6, which the computer says is an inaccuracy. Here my opponent goes knight to c3. I immediately put my knight onto b4. Another inaccuracy, I guess. My idea is that like this square could be very useful in the future. It controls this d5 point. I'm putting some pressure on this d3 pawn, which is currently a bit backwards. So I thought this was okay. Here, h3. And here I go forward with this idea that I had, which was e5. My idea was that takes, and knight takes. Here I maybe have like queen d6 or rook d8 to put pressure on this d3 pawn. But then I realized this knight is actually defending, so I have to go with some other idea. So here I play the move knight to h5. Attacking g3 and also putting pressure on the knight on e5. Here, the best move in my opinion would probably be something like, I guess like knight back to f3. I thought and then after knight takes, you play rook f2, or maybe this is a little bit of a stretch, but like bishop f4 is another move I saw, and then like you could get something like this with this really dominant center. But here apparently I have the move g5 here, which just undermines the structure here. You can't take because I have bishop captures on e5. You can't push either for the same reason. Bishop captures on e5. And so here the computer claims this should be around equal after knight d5. Here knight captures. And here after pawn captures with this e pawn or the c pawn. White has this solid mass here, but I can capture here on f4 and I can regain back my pawn. There's pressure on b2, there's pressure on this knight, and this should be playable for both sides. So here after knight takes, knight h5, here my opponent actually goes for g4. This I actually thought was a blunder. And here after knight g3, this is kind of the reason. Because here, after if you play something like rook f3, then I can play bishop captures on e5. Here, I'm simply up a piece here. If you play bishop f4, then here I simply have the move bishop captures on f4, rook captures on f4, and here after something like h5, if you play rook to f4, then here I can play something like h4 and just cement my knight here. Or alternatively, if you take, then I can play knight captures on h5 and my knight is back out and in the game. So here my opponent instead goes for something a bit more wild, we'll say. Rook captures on f7. Here, after rook takes and knight takes, the idea is that if I play king captures on f7, then here you can simply play like queen f3 check and just ping back up the knight, and white is comfortably better here as they won a pawn. However, here after rook takes and knight takes, here I play the in-between move bishop to d4 check. White only has one move here. You don't want to block with the bishop. All the squares are taken away along this diagonal, so you only have king h2. And here I find another only move. All the other moves lead to a winning position for white. Here I find the only move, the move queen to c7. The idea here is I'm setting up a discover check along this diagonal, and you actually can't get out of it, besides from the move e5, of course, which my opponent played in the game. The idea with queen c7 is that let's say you do nothing. Then here I have this very spectacular move, knight f1 check. And then after king to h1, here I can jump in with my queen, queen to h2 checkmate, supported by my knight on f1. So quite the spectacular checkmate. So here e5 is the only move that doesn't basically lose on the spot and allows this game to keep going. Here I play queen captures on f7. I don't really want to take this pawn because then this knight gets back out and then I don't actually gain the piece. So after queen captures on f7, here queen to f3 was played. And here I was debating for a long time what to do. Bishop captures on e5 I saw, but I thought after something like this knight maybe gets stuck somehow. So instead I bailed out with the move queen captures on f3, sorry, bishop captures on f3 and knight f1 check. This at least allows my knight to go back to e3, and then at which point I can probably get my knight back somehow. However, instead here I play after queen takes and bishop takes. Here I actually play bishop captures on e5 first. And after king g2, my knight is actually still stuck. Here I could play like h5 and probably get my knight out. Something like this, takes and knight takes, and then if we can trade. And then here I'm simply up like, well, here simply my pieces are a lot more active. I'm not actually up any pawns, I'm actually down a pawn in this position. But this is completely winning for black solely because look at these two pieces, they're not really doing anything. I'm about to win this pawn on d3. White's position is simply just horrible here. So instead here, after queen takes, bishop takes, here I play bishop captures on e4. And after king to g2, here I play knight captures on d3, which is actually a mistake. The reason why this is a mistake is because this allows a move like bishop to h6. So this move I didn't actually see, and I realized after bishop h6 I'm actually in a little bit of trouble because white can get their rook in, and I'm still not developed fully, so I can't stop something like rook d8, which is an infiltration potentially, and after king f7, rook f8, and then my king gets hunted out into the middle. After bishop h6 here I play knight captures on b2, which is actually a mistake because this allows the move bishop to d5. And these two bishops really come to life because I have to force my king into the corner. And here, after something like rook to e1, which my opponent played, this gets really tough for me to play. Here I want to play something like bishop g7, but this actually just straight up allows like mate in 2 with rook e1, bishop f1, and rook captures on e1, and these bishops slice through to trap my king in the corner. So instead, here I have to go for knight to d3. And here my opponent actually doesn't find the best continuation. Better here would have been to play rook e3, and white is, like, this is a lot more playable for white than for black, even though black is still slightly better. Here I have to find the move bishop f5, which is quite the ridiculous move to see. Defending this knight, and this knight defends this bishop, and basically everything is somehow defended currently. You can capture this, however after knight captures on f5, I'm forking the rook as well as the bishop, and here you have to play something like rook captures on d3. After knight captures on h6, here I don't actually emerge up, I'm actually emerging up one pawn somehow from that really weird position. So that's like the best way that the computer suggests to save this game. But after knight d3, here my opponent plays rook captures on e5. Here I play knight captures on e5, king captures on g3, and here I begin the process of trying to untangle. Here, firstly, I play bishop to d7, which is marked as a mistake, but yet the computer says it's the best move, so that's the computer analysis for you. Bishop captures on b7. Oh, sorry, not bishop captures on b7. Here, bishop back to e3 first, attacking this pawn. I can't play b6, because then I drop the rook in the corner. So here I play rook c8, bishop takes, rook c7, bishop to d5. Here I play bishop to c6, trying to trade off some pieces here. However, here I completely forget about the move bishop f4. So here I play rook e7, which is the only good move. And here I was really worried about something like this. Here after king f4, I thought that I probably won't be able to win this game anymore because I have to go into bishop takes on d5. You can't take with the knight because then my rook runs away, takes, and bishop captures on c4. And after king d3, I thought this probably wasn't better for, or this might be better for black, but this might not be winning for black anymore, and I didn't really want to go into this. However, thankfully, my opponent actually didn't see this line, and after rook captures on e5, took this bishop on c6, which gave me which gave me some hope because after rook e3 check, forking the king and the knight. This was also the point behind rook e7. Here my opponent plays king to f4, rook captures on c3, and here I'm able to gain another pawn because I'm forking c4 and h3. Bishop b4 is correct, trying to protect c4 because you want to protect the c4 pawn because if I can capture it, then my c5 pawn becomes passed. So rook captures h3, and here I slowly bring my king. Keep in mind, at this point, I have around like a minute, and my opponent has like 3 minutes. So I'm trying to win this game as quickly as possible. So I'm thinking here and there, and by this point my time is down to around 20 seconds. So here I've already won the pawn on g5. I managed to corral it with the rook cutting off the king. And here I just start advancing my pawns and slowly improving my position until we slowly get to after king h1, which is a mistake. I play king g3, and this allows for unstoppable checkmate. Here the best you can do is what my opponent played, which is like bishop f3, rook c1 check, and then after bishop to d1, here I simply capture, and this led to checkmate. So what to say about this game? In general, I'm pretty happy with how I played in the beginning. I would say everything up to here, bishop d4, all of this I'm very happy with. Managed to find a way to get into an endgame situation, we'll call it, like middle game endgame situation where I'm completely winning. Very nice liquidation at the right time with queen captures on f3 just to allow my knight to get out. I would say at the end, due to time pressure a little bit and also a bit of miscalculation, kind of flubbed it a little bit, but managed to still get the win anyways. Still pretty happy with it. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed this game, and thanks for watching.